crikey. How do they do it every single time? Another bonkers race in ABB Formula E. This time we're in Mexico City at the Autodromo Hermanos Rodriguez. You might recognise that name. And that's because it's the exact same circuit that they used in Formula 1. Yes, it's a changed up layout, but it is the same circuit. Now, going into this race, there'd been a few talking points at the season so far, but one of the big statistics coming out of it was the fact that in each of the 3 races we had had 3 different winners. Would we see a repeat of that in Mexico? And heads up, we did, and what a brilliant race it was once again, but what a brilliant weekend, starting with qualifying. Now, Pascal Wehrlein, we all know how highly I rate Pascal Wehrlein. He got his first pole position ever in Formula E, followed by Lucas di Grassi and Felipe Massa, which was a real surprise, probably the biggest surprise out of the entire field in qualifying. Yes, we had championship leader Sam Bird in the very last row of the grid in 22nd place. We also had Jerome D'Ambrosio, who was second in the championship in 18th place. But Massa in third was a really impressive job from the Brazilian, considering his relative inexperience in Formula E. But partner that with the fact that he's in a Venturi, a car which I still 100% agree with this, although we will discover later on in the race they had a really strong weekend. I think they're one of the worst cars on the grid. So getting it into Superpole first from Massa, brilliant job. But actually qualifying third on the grid in front of Roland, Da Costa, Buemi, mega job from Felipe Massa. Really starting to show now why he is in Formula E and why he wants to challenge. Van Dorn, didn't see a lot of Van Dorn this particular weekend, so I just wanted to quickly mention him now because I know he is the fans' favourite driver. Difficult qualifying, started I believe 17th place, 19th place I think it was, and stayed roughly in the same position throughout the race. He got the fan boost, but he got a penalty during the race for fan boost, although on the graphic they called it the fun boost. Not too sure I would agree with that. However, a difficult weekend for both HWA boys, but I just wanted to quickly throw that in there because when we talk about the race in a second, I won't mention Van Dorn. However, big props to Van Dorn for actually finishing a race. That is mega experience for the team, and it was something that they really needed. The same with Felipe Massa as well, so brilliant stuff for them. Felipe Nasr also was taking part in his first weekend in Formula E, but another quiet race for him as well. So let's jump into the race then, the interesting bit, the actual bit that people love to talk about. And the start itself, pretty clean from most people, to be totally honest with you. Wehrlein led, but then behind Wehrlein, hold the phone, Ollie Rowland, the rookie for Nissan, doing a Daniel Ricciardo-esque dive bomb up the inside, took second place away from none other than Lucas di Grassi. I mean, Season 3 champ, one of the most elite drivers on the Formula 1 grid, a veteran of Formula E now, completely just disrespected that, chucked it up the inside, took second place, and held it for most of the race. Now, we did see a few little argy-bargy kerfuffles in that first lap, but the big talking point came from these two here. Piquet Jr, mega smash with Jean-Eric Vergne. Piquet tried to go up the inside of Vergne. Vergne closed the door. There was still a car width, but Vergne braked particularly early just because of the line that they both forced themselves onto. Piquet smacked into the back of Vergne, into the air, smacking into the back of Sims as well. Mega smash, red flag. Piquet's car just completely destroyed. He was not going anywhere, so he was out. He's under a lot of pressure now. Really needs to start getting some results together, but I do see this incident as a racing incident, to be totally honest with you. No one really deserved the penalty too much. Arguably, Piquet could have gone up the inside. Arguably, Vergne could have given him a little bit more room, but I still feel that overall it was a racing incident. Once we did get back underway, it was Wehrlein who led, but it was Ollie Rowland in second place, who I wasn't too sure if he was going to be able to hold on to that second place, but he did a really solid job of holding on to P2 for most of the race. Now, there was a mid-race lull, which, if you don't know what that means, it's where the race goes a little bit dull, but Rowland, the whole way through, was doing impressive lap times, but not only that, to keep behind Buemi, to keep behind Lucas Di Grassi, Antonio Felix da Costa, these guys who've been in Formula E since season 1. And yet he was just dealing with this pressure so well. In a new team to the grid, it was a mega job from Ollie Rowland, and it was the first time in, I believe, 25-ish races that someone actually out-qualified Sebastian Buemi. That was Buemi's teammate. So a really mega job this weekend from Ollie Rowland. And looking at Nissan's pace, this race and last time out in Santiago, could they really have one of the best cars on the grid? I think so. That car looked really good, and especially on this circuit in the low-speed corners, they looked very good. And he was able to keep Di Grassi behind, even Di Grassi using his fun boost. And yes, I'm going to call it fun boost from now on, now that they accidentally called it that, because fun boost is definitely a more fun way of doing it. It was a really good job from Ollie Rowland, and I'm looking forward to seeing what he can do for the rest of the year, because I think he can be on the podium, and I think if things go his way, he could sneak a victory, and that would be mega. I really do like Ollie Rowland. I followed him throughout his GP2 career, and yeah, I love the fact he's in Formula E. He deserved a chance, he's got his chance, and he's really impressing. Anyway, back to the racing. Attack mode. People used it when the safety car came out just after the red flag, and that caused quite a few argy-bargies. People not using it at the right time, people using it at the wrong time. Da Costa taking a bit of damage throughout that, which he had for the rest of the race with 40 minutes to go. We had Jev and Evans really scrapping it out, caused Jean-Eric Vergne to spin in the stadium section. But we had these final few minutes of racing, which were Formula E to a T. Absolutely mega. And we had the final 5 at the front. Vergne led from Rowland, Di Grassi, Buemi, Da Costa. But who would take the victory? It was Di Grassi, with Da Costa in second and Eduardo Mortara third. What? How's that happened? What? How's it happened that Vergne was leading with 1 lap to go, then it was Di Grassi, then it was the 2 Nissans, then Da Costa. So hang on a sec. How did that happen? Well, the Nissans, first of all, well, they really proved their inexperience in Formula E. Miscalculated how many laps there was going to be, and a lot of people did that same thing, not quite to the extent that Nissan were able to do it. Something that Di Grassi was really impressive with, proved his experience and battery saving and management. I told people this at the beginning of the season, it is crucial people get that right, and this is a perfect example of it today. Same with Da Costa, same with Mortara. All of them were so good at managing their energy. That's why they kept it. But both Rowland and Buemi out of the race. They were in contention for that podium. Driver of the day, my driver of the day, got second place. And that is Da Costa. You might have thought I was giving it to Vergne, but I'll explain why. Da Costa had damage throughout the entire race. But just like Di Grassi, was able to incredibly, same with Mortara as well, manage their energy perfectly. And that's why those 3 were on the podium. Vergne was defending the entire race, led from lap 1 to the final lap. Cut the chicane, got a 5-second penalty for it. He's going to be gutted about that. He really is, because if he hadn't made that mistake... Okay, I have called it a mistake, realised that's going to annoy some people. Side by side with Di Grassi, it was so close, the entire closing stages. I had my hands on my head, screaming at 12 o'clock at night, woke up everyone, but it was such an incredible end to this race. Vergne cut that chicane, Lucas Di Grassi was all over the back of him, he had this penalty, but on the very last corner of the last lap, he ran out of power. Di Grassi took him on the last few centimetres of the race and got the win on the circuit. He said it's his best ever Formula E race. I would argue his race a couple of seasons ago in Mexico is his best ever race, last through to first. That was a mega job, but for me, Da Costa, with that damage, he couldn't even drive straight without having to turn the wheel. It was an incredible recovery drive from Da Costa. And Vergne, he will get his chance. He is still in contention for the championship, in my mind. He's 5th in the championship already, ahead of Jean-Eric Vergne. So if people are saying Vergne's still in the championship, then Vergne definitely is. He's only 4 points behind Lucas Di Grassi, but Di Grassi with the win. Costa second, Mortara, incredible job. Third, D'Ambrosio, 18th to 4th, is proving why he could sneak this championship if things go his way. Lotterer 5th, Vergne 6th, Bird 9th, still all to play for in ABB Formula E. 4 races, 4 different winners from 4 different teams, 9 different drivers on the podium, 6 teams have podiums, and only 3 drivers have scored in every single race. Formula E Season 5 is really something special, something to behold. And tomorrow I should have the podcast out, the Formula E Zone podcast, where I will go into much more detail with Jack and Tobias about this whole incredible race, because there really is not enough time to talk about every little nook and cranny like we do in the podcast. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.